Here's the thing. Meghan Markle is going to receive an award, but it's not just any award. It's from the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles. The way it's all unfolding feels more like an expensive inside joke that Meghan might be the last to receive, and when Jon Stewart jumps in and roasts you on national television, it kind of stops being funny. Let's go back a little. The Natural History Museum is hosting its big Night of Wonder Gala on June 14th. The fancy name right, tickets start at $1,500 and go up to $250,000 if you want a full sponsorship table. Guess who the honored guest is? Meghan Markle is being recognized for her alleged support of women and underprivileged communities. If that statement caused you to pause, you're not alone because this isn't exactly someone who's out in the trenches doing grassroots work. Rather, we're talking about someone who's more famous for Netflix deals, podcast flops, and carefully manicured Instagram aesthetics than for any lasting social impact. To make matters worse, Meghan had just wrapped up what was supposed to be the last episode of her podcast, but surprisingly, she returned for a bonus episode that featured Beyoncé's mother. The episode was filled with high-profile name drops and a lot of ambiguous discussion about family forgiveness and empowerment. It had that glossy, practiced vibe as if it were meant to be, to promote a lifestyle rather than a narrative that might have succeeded if the timing hadn't been so off. At that same time, people began to criticize the gala honor, not just online trolls, journalists, comedians, museum donors, and people you wouldn't expect, and they all had the same question. Why is Meghan Markle receiving this award? When Jon Stewart spoke, people listened, and on a recent episode of his show, he completely roasted the entire event, calling it a participation trophy for celebrity activism. The crowd laughed, social media ate it up, and suddenly this gala transformed from a glittering PR opportunity into a meme. This isn't a good look when you're trying to rebrand yourself as a serious public figure. The main problem here isn't that Meghan is receiving recognition. Rather, it's that nobody really understands what she is receiving. The museum says it's for her advocacy and empowerment work, but those are platitudes that don't mean much without receipts. People want to see results. Where's the list of projects? Where's the quantifiable impact? Where's the change that resulted from all the talk? From where many people are sitting, it feels like Meghan has only been fighting for herself. What's worse is that this isn't an isolated incident. Meghan and Harry have been receiving awards ever since leaving royal life, but many of those honors come from organizations that seem more interested in their celebrity than their contributions. Influential lists won humanitarian awards and attended international summits, but when you look a little closer, it seems like all smoke and mirrors. Their foundation isn't exactly brimming with success stories, and their Spotify and Netflix deals are full of promise but fall short of delivery. Now, the Natural History Museum is hosting a gala that seems more like a celebrity branding event than anything that has anything to do with natural history. Even within the museum community, some patrons and historians are wondering why institutions that once took pride in their intellectual rigor are now vying for followers on Instagram, trading credibility for celebrity in order to get a few Hollywood types in the room and hopefully a fat donation or two. But that's not the end of it. The backlash is coming from regular people as well. Social media is flooded with comments that are tearing apart the entire event, the ticket price, the shallow speech that they expect from Meghan, and the fact that this award ceremony feels completely disconnected from reality. Not only are trolls and tabloids calling out this behavior, but actual museum supporters and cultural commentators are publicly questioning whether this is what institutions should be doing in 2025. Meanwhile, Meghan's team has been completely silent, making no explanations or defending the award's merits, which speaks louder than any press release ever could. This isn't going as planned. Perhaps they were hoping for applause, but all they're getting are awkward giggles and raised eyebrows. Let's face it, this is about Meghan's entire post-royal strategy, including her speeches, brand deals, and staged podcasts. It feels like they're trying to create a legacy that hasn't really happened. She's ignoring her work and going straight for the spotlight, hoping that people won't notice the difference between her image and her content. Jon Stewart's roast just confirmed what many were already speculating. The empire of image is beginning to fall apart. The joke practically wrote itself. A museum about dinosaurs and natural wonders was giving awards to a woman known more for brand partnerships than scientific contributions. Some users even called the gala the Night of Blunder. This wasn't just sarcasm. It reflected something deeper. people are growing weary of celebrity activism being treated like real work. Meghan's PR image has always walked a thin line between inspiration and illusion. On paper, she's done it all as an actress, duchess, podcast host, and philanthropist. But when you look closely, many of those roles seem unfinished. Her children's book came and went without. When you take away the titles and press releases, all that's left is a lot of ambition but little follow-through. This gala was supposed to fix that by offering a chance to reset the narrative and reintroduce Meghan as a woman of action. But it's difficult to sell that story when the only thing people can agree on is the size of the ticket prices, $250,000 for a table, when $1,500 for one seat, and a speech full of buzzwords and a meal you'll forget the next day. It feels more like a networking party for the wealthy than a celebration of community work. People are frustrated by this disconnect, and the museum's reputation is beginning to suffer. The criticism isn't just about Meghan anymore. It's about the museum prioritizing celebrity over substance. When a scientific institution shifts its focus from discovery to star power, people begin to question whether its values are for sale. Longtime patrons and even some staff members are said to feel taken by surprise because they didn't sign up to be part of a Hollywood press cycle. They wanted to support science, education, and conservation, not host red carpets for lifestyle influencers. And let's not forget about the speech Meghan is expected to give. Based on her previous public speaking, we're in for a lot of inspirational phrases with little undertones like equity narrative and healing will. Get tossed around, but without a clear message or actionable point, it's the kind of speech that sounds important in the moment but leaves you wondering what it actually meant. This works for some audiences, but not for people who paid thousands to be inspired. In the days leading up to the event, Meghan's team remained silent, posting carefully worded posts on social media and the customary carefully chosen photos. Perhaps they were trying to avoid adding to the commotion, or perhaps they didn't have a good explanation for why this event was happening in the first place. Silence can sometimes speak louder than a full-blown PR campaign, and in this case, it said a lot. The bonus episode with Tina Knowles was also a conversation about family, which was obviously meant to tie everything together. Resilience and creating something of your own. On the surface, it had all the right elements. Beyoncé's mom's legacy. Talk had heartfelt moments, but the delivery sounded scripted. And instead of providing clarity, it added to the confusion surrounding the gala. That episode made one thing very clear. Meghan is making a lot of effort to remain culturally relevant. She is relying on well-known names and strong emotions to maintain her image. But relevance doesn't last long if it isn't supported by something genuine. Eventually, people stop clapping, or worse, they start laughing. And once that shift occurs, it's difficult to recover from its critics' claim that the gala, like Meghan's recent endeavors, is a reflection of the greater issue with contemporary celebrity culture. Awards aren't always about merit anymore. Sometimes they're about optics. Institutions are quick to bestow honors if doing so will increase media coverage or provide an opportunity to draw in wealthy donors. Meghan, with her international fame and headline power, fits that mold perfectly. But it's a risky game because when the public begins to point out the difference between genuine recognition and reputational fluff, everyone involved suffers. The Natural History Museum may have unintentionally exposed itself to mockery. And Meghan, who probably hoped this would be a redemptive moment, now finds herself in the midst of another PR disaster. Meghan Markle's reputation wasn't always this way. At one point, leaving the royal family seemed like a bold move, a fresh start, and an opportunity to forge an independent legacy. However, over time, people's curiosity turned into confusion, and the story she's tried to tell about a modern woman fighting the system, championing causes, and making an impact keeps running into the same problem. Very few receipts and a lot of packaging. This gala mess has only made that contrast louder because when you take away the glam, what's left is a question that's getting harder to ignore. More importantly, why do people keep giving her awards for it? That's not meant to be cruel. It's the same kind of scrutiny that any public figure would experience if they were being held up as a voice of empowerment. The public wants to see the proof, not motivational quotes, carefully edited Instagram photos, or Spotify deals that abruptly end after one season. People aren't being petty, they're being honest. They've seen a pattern. Meghan enters a space with big announcements promising change, shaking up the narrative, the podcast stops, The foundation goes silent, and the accolades keep coming. The disconnect starts when the ambition fails. It's not the lack of execution that bothers people. You can't just keep pushing. When an organization that should be about history and science begins acting like a PR firm, people feel betrayed, and it cheapens the mission. It also makes everyone involved look desperate for attention. For Meghan, it's another reminder that image can't carry you forever. Eventually, people realized that the gala could have been a chance to change that narrative, but instead it made it worse. People are saying the quiet part aloud now that this feels like a vanity award, that the museum needed a headline and Meghan needed a win, a transactional moment dressed up as a milestone, and it's not just random tweets saying this. Take the wheel. Meghan's story still has potential. It always did. But that potential is being buried under an increasing amount of mistakes and missed opportunities. The public doesn't hate Meghan. Rather, they're tired of the contradiction between her actions and words. You can't continue to be praised for advocating for equity while serving as the face of upscale podcast studios and $1,500 per plate. Galas. That kind of contrast wears thin, especially at a time when people are more skeptical than ever of performative activism. They want results, not rehearsed speeches, and definitely not speeches that feel more like resume padding rather than genuine reflection. Meghan's inner circle is probably reassessing the fallout from this incident. They'll probably try to spin it with an op-ed or heartfelt essay in a glossy magazine, or they might make a surprise appearance at a more grassroots initiative to reset the optics and show a different side. However, the problem with credibility is that once it starts to slip, you can't get it back with another rebrand. You have to earn it slowly and consistently with actual work. There's also the larger issue of the institutions that keep giving the Cycle Museum's award shows nonprofits a platform to star power rather than substance. It's a risky business because once credibility is lost, it's difficult to regain, and no amount of clicks or publicity can make up for the trust lost when people feel duped. If Meghan truly wants to change the narrative, the way forward is straightforward. Even if it's difficult, step away from the spotlight, focus on it, and work on it for a long time. Not just for 6 months or a single podcast season. Don't just talk about impact. Create it quietly, and then let the results speak for themselves. That's how true leaders do it, and that's how legacies are created. At the moment, people see someone chasing platforms without a purpose, accepting praise without merit, and relying too much on the idea of being a symbol rather than doing the work that a symbol is meant to stand for. She won't be the last, but what she does next will determine whether she stays in it or breaks out, because in reality, it's not too late. The criticism is loud, yes, but it contains something valuable that people want to believe, so they want her to succeed. They just need to see a version of Meghan Markle that shows up not dressed for the camera, but ready to get things done. That's the version the world is still waiting to see when she left the palace and entered the real world.